Bird that you're that whistle that you're hearing, we're hearing an eastern towhee. We may see that. We may see, and they're coming out. They're making a lot of noise right now because it is spring. And be careful, don't get too close to this is all poison ivy. Okay, now we are. There's a little trail here. They have cleared out the poison ivy. They've made this forest for a purpose. Is that that's kind of a promise. I looked at it early and it looked okay to me. But I think if we do this by halves, in other words, half the group go in with me first and then we'll switch around. And the reason we're going in is because there is a long leaf pine tree in its grass stage. It is 4.5 years old right now. The longleaf pines are the ones that were logged out so heavily because there were a heck of a lot more of them here, and you don't see very many of them anymore because they were logged out and then replaced with slash pine. And they have planted some longleaf pine trees here. And they are particularly adapted to withstand fire. So I want to show you what a grass stage is because later on we're going to see some mature longleaf pine. Awesome. So half of you come in with me right now.
So what's the baby pine?
This is.
What's that?
This is the young pine tree.
It looks cute.
It does sort of look cute, doesn't it?
Should I touch it?
You can certainly touch it. Anyone can touch it. The young longleaf pine stays in this low grass stage for maybe up to 10 years. Doing is it is sending down a taproot.
Wow.
In order to find a dependable source of water. And so it's going to stay in this stage until building up nutrients and making itself strong. And it's also waiting for fire. So when I say that they're well adapted to withstand fire, these needles are actually very moist inside. And what the tree will do is, it will, the needles will come up like this, and they will protect the growing bud, which is right here. And they, because of the moisture inside, they will steam. And so it will never get up above the temperature of boiling water. And that's apparently for a short period of time. Exactly.
Cooler than fire.
Exactly. Cooler than fire. And also, this white here also reflects heat. So it pushes off heat from getting too close in.
Oh.
I think this. That's what a grass stage looks like. And what'll happen is, once there's a burn, and there's probably going to be a burn this summer at some point, prescribed burn, which will help this to grow. Then this in 3 years will get up to be like 5 or 6 feet high.
Wow.
So imagine this is 4.5 years old at this point, and then it'll get, look at how low it is, and then it'll get up to, that's
now,
right.
Is this a longleaf pine up here too?
No.
No.
So
this is not. This is slash pines are native.
This one right here, this little guy?
That one, I do not believe so. No. It looks to me like it's a brown growing bud, so I do not believe that it is. Okay. Let's do a switch. Yep. And then we'll let the other people come in. About this other tree here. This is slash pine. Some of the differences between slash and longleaf. A longleaf pine tree can get up to be 150 feet high.
Wow.
It can get to be 4 feet diameter. Thank you. Diameter. It can live 500 years. So that's probably the longest living thing that we have here. It also has a bark that is very corky and nicely layered, and so it tends to withstand fire extremely well. It will not develop any branches until the tree gets up above the level at which fire can be expected.
I can't
These are all the adaptations. Exactly. After over millions of years, these are the plants that survived, because there were probably plenty of plants that tried to move into an area like this and did not have the right adaptations and never made it. So, so these trees, the longleaf pines, were logged because they were so tall. They were so thick, and they're filled with resin, which is really able to withstand insects and disease and that kind of thing. So they were used for railroad ties. They were used in all sorts of construction. They were used to build ships. And up until 1920, Florida was the rosin and turpentine capital of the United States.
Wow.
And so they were tapped. They were tapped for their sap, and there's only so long that you can let that go on without the plants dying. So, and the slash pine, in contrast, what they did was, once they pulled out, or once the longleaf pine died, they replaced them with farms of slash pine, because they grow fast. They'll grow up to 57 feet, believe it or not. The South Florida slash pine, 57 feet, and they only live for about 100 years as opposed to 500, but they grow very, very fast.
And
they don't have that stage that you saw before and the slow growth.
When you mentioned about that waiting for the fire, okay, if a fire were like this summer, all right, what would be devastated around it? It would survive.
That's such a good question.
What
Thank
would
you.
be devastated around?
That's a great question. One of the reasons, because it also explains why this is all so open. What would be devastated are the grasses, the herbs, all the low-lying stuff. Plus, the saw palmetto to some extent too would also be destroyed, because this can keep on growing and growing high. So all the low-lying stuff would be taken down to the ground, but that's not a problem, because again, the plants that you see here that are living in association with the pine trees have over time developed the ability to grow from their roots. All their nutrition is held inside of their roots. If there's a managed burn, or they would naturally burn during the summer, all of the nutrients are in the root system. So they would then just regenerate. And there are plants that have rhizomes that send out runners, and they can send up the plant all along the length. And many of these plants too also really need fire in order for their seeds to open up. They're fire dependent. They're more than able to survive fire. They're fire dependent. They thrive in fire.
Wow.
If there's no fire, this little one you just showed us, it'll still thrive, right?
It would still thrive, but eventually what would happen is something called succession. If there was never any fire here, you would have more and more of a buildup of these bushes that then slough off their branches and everything else, and the soil becomes more and more organic, which is better for a whole different kind of plant. And those are the oaks. Those are the hardwoods. Those are the hardwood oak trees. Those would start to grow, and then they would shade out eventually. That tree that we just saw, that might survive. But the other young pine trees several years down the road might not, because they get shaded out.
Aw.
I wanted to point out,
Yes.
talking about the plants coming back. This was all burned, what, about 4 years ago?
Yeah.
See, it's all back now. We're going to see this was a prescribed burn here. Over around the back side there was a wildfire last July.
Oh,
And we can see how fast that's grown back. It's only been less than a year. And like I said, this is less than 5 years here.
And what you will get to see with that is what happens in a conflagration when trees are allowed to grow too close together. And then you have a really damaging fire. So we're actually going to walk this way.
Oh, sorry. You're fine.
You said that they planted 12,000 of the longleaf.
Yeah.
Are those all doing well? I mean, the majority doing
No,
well?
good question. Good question. Out of the 12,000 trees that were planted, only 15 to 20% are still surviving. But this is actually good. This is actually a pretty good rate of survival. It mimics what would happen in nature, because we don't have irrigation here, and we don't have any, fertilization. We only have natural fertilization.
So the hardiest are surviving.
Exactly, and that's what you want. Up right here, we have gopher apple, which is a low-lying plant. It doesn't have any actual apples on it that I can show you, but they kind of look like oak leaves, and they put on a fruit that gopher tortoises love, and this is an area where there are lots of gopher tortoises. And we've got the pawpaw.
I've heard those
A
before.
pawpaw plant, this is an example of how plants will develop chemicals in order to dispel browsers. In an environment like this, you've already got kind of a hard life, so you don't want something coming along and munching on you. And so this has some very strong chemicals in it in the leaves. But interestingly, in nature, there's often some critter that keeps up with the chemical changes. And in fact, if you see zebra longwing
Butterflies.
zebra swallowtail butterflies, I'm sorry to have, it's actually zebra swallowtail butterflies.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
This is their larval plant.
I need
So
to-
they can withstand the chemicals that this plant puts out. And so plants will put out chemicals that are sometimes just bad tasting.
I said get up.
Sometimes they're so
God,
toxic
that-
they'll kill you. And we're about to see a plant that that can happen with.
Is that the pawpaw?
This is the pawpaw, yeah, and we're going to see some pawpaws that are actually in bloom.
What is this? It's got a really nice shaped leaf.
Oh yeah, this is muscadine grape. And muscadine grape puts on a lovely edible fruit that can be eaten right off the vine or made into wine.